Have you ever heard a piano crying louder than the thunder? If you stay with me until the end of this story, I promise it will touch your soul and show you that miracles can happen when kindness steps in at the darkest hour. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Goodness Corner so you never miss powerful stories like this one. Now, let me take you to a stormy night where one girl's tears mixed with the rain, and the sound of her trembling piano keys carried through the streets like a desperate prayer. The night was not just dark, it was alive with rage. The sky roared as if it carried the weight of the world's pain, lightning split the heavens, and the rain poured down in sheets that blurred the city lights. People rushed to shelter, slamming windows shut, locking doors, pulling curtains as if the storm itself was a monster they had to shut out. Yet amid all that chaos, there was one place where the storm did not silence the sound, it carried it. A fragile melody, broken, shaky, yet hauntingly beautiful. It came from a half-broken upright piano left beneath the crumbling roof of an abandoned theater. And there, with rain-soaked hair plastered to her face and trembling fingers pressing the ivory keys, sat a girl no older than 18. Her name was Ilara. Ilara had no home to return to that night. She had no family waiting for her, no warm meal, no fire. She had nothing but this broken piano, which she found inside the abandoned theater months ago. While others saw a wreck of wood and rusted wires, she saw her last connection to her mother, who once whispered that music could heal the heart when words failed. And so, on this night, when the storm outside mirrored the storm inside her soul, Ilara played. Not for an audience, not for money, not for recognition, she played for survival. Every note carried her sorrow, every chord was her confession, every pause was filled by her quiet sobs. Passers-by on the flooded streets slowed for a moment when they heard her music drift out through the cracked windows of the theater. Some shook their heads, muttering, "That poor girl again." Others sneered, "Why doesn't she just find a real job instead of wasting time?" Nobody stopped. Nobody offered a hand. To them, she was invisible, a shadow in the rain. Ilara's story was not one of laziness or choice. Life had stripped her bare. Her father had abandoned her before she could even speak, and her mother had been taken from her just a year ago by illness. She had tried working at small shops, cleaning tables, washing clothes, but none lasted. She was too young, too untrained, and too fragile. The world was too harsh for a girl like her. So when the jobs disappeared, when the food stopped coming, she found herself wandering until her legs led her to the ruined theater. That's where she found the piano. That's where she poured out her grief. That's where she belonged, at least, until fate sent someone she never imagined would stop to listen. That night, as lightning lit up the cracked glass and the storm howled against the broken doors, a man in a black limousine pulled over nearby. His driver tried to continue, but the man raised his hand. He had heard something unusual. Amid the thunder and chaos, a melody tugged at him, fragile yet powerful, like a wounded bird refusing to stop singing. He ordered the driver to wait and stepped into the storm. His polished shoes sank into the puddles, his expensive coat soaked instantly, but he didn't care. He followed the music until he found the theater, and when he pushed the rusted door open, the sight that met him stopped him cold. There she was, Ilara. Her fingers shivering over the keys, her face wet with tears and rain, her lips whispering the words her heart couldn't say. She was playing a melody of loss and longing, but also of resilience. It was the sound of a girl who had been broken but still refused to stop breathing. For a moment, the billionaire, yes, he was no ordinary man, but a man whose name commanded respect across the business world, felt his chest tighten. He had built skyscrapers, empires, fortunes. He had everything money could buy. And yet, nothing had ever moved him like this forgotten girl's music. He stood there silently, letting the notes wash over him. For Ilara, he was just another shadow in the storm, unnoticed. She played until her strength gave out, until her hands slipped from the keys and she buried her face against the piano, sobbing softly, whispering, "Mama, I can't do this anymore." The billionaire took a step closer. "Yes, you can," he said, his voice steady but warm. Elara gasped, spinning to face him. In her eyes was fear, fear of another cruel stranger, fear of being mocked, chased away, hurt. She backed against the piano as though she could disappear into it. But the man did not raise his voice, did not sneer, did not demand. He simply placed his soaked coat around her trembling shoulders and knelt beside her. "I don't know your story," he said softly, "but I know your music. And it speaks louder than anything I've ever heard in boardrooms, meetings, or symphonies. Don't stop playing." For the first time in years, Elara looked at someone who didn't see her as worthless. For the first time, she felt noticed, not as a burden, but as a soul. And in that abandoned theater, amid the storm, something shifted. A broken girl had been heard. A billionaire had been moved. And the story of their fates was only just beginning. The storm had passed, but the storm in Elara's life had not. The billionaire, whose name was Adrian Blackwell, returned the next morning. Most men of his stature would have forgotten a girl like her the second they stepped back into their luxury cars. But Adrian was different. He had grown up poor himself, though he buried those memories under years of success and wealth. Something in Elara's music had unlocked that hidden past. He could not shake the image of her playing through the storm. He came with breakfast, a blanket, and something Elara had not seen in a long time: patience. At first, she resisted, mistrustful, convinced this was some cruel trick. But Adrian didn't leave. He sat quietly while she ate, asking nothing, giving space. Slowly, over days, Elara began to tell her story. Her voice was halting, her eyes downcast, but Adrian listened like every word mattered. And when she finally confessed, "I'm nothing, I have nothing," Adrian shook his head and said, "You have a gift that can't be bought, Elara. That makes you richer than you realize." From that day forward, Adrian changed everything. He paid for her to attend music school, where her raw talent blossomed. He gave her a safe place to live, but never once treated her like a charity case. Instead, he reminded her every day that she had earned her future through her perseverance and her music. And Elara, for the first time in years, began to smile. Months later, the same girl who once played to an empty, broken theater found herself on a grand stage, lights glittering above her, an audience waiting breathlessly. She sat at a polished piano, her gown elegant, her heart pounding. She closed her eyes and played, not just notes, but her story. The storm, the tears, the loneliness, and the kindness that changed it all. And when the final note faded, the silence before the applause was filled with tears, tears from strangers whose hearts she had touched. In the front row, Adrian stood, his eyes glistening. For him, this was not about wealth or success. It was about witnessing the power of kindness, the power of seeing someone others ignored. Elara had gone from weeping in the storm to shining under the spotlight, and it all began because someone chose to listen. So, dear viewers, remember this: sometimes the smallest act of kindness can rewrite someone's destiny. If this story moved you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Goodness Corner for more stories that remind us of the power of compassion. Because one day, your kindness might be the storm breaker in someone else's life.